Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's Voice to the World. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. Israel threatens to resume fighting if Hamas does not respect Gaza truce deal, while Hamas says it has handed over all hostage bodies it can access. Trump authorizes CIA operations in Venezuela, raising pressure on the South American country. Maduro government says it is a violation of international law and the United Nations Charter. India's Minister of State Kirtivardhan Singh reaffirms country support for Gaza peace plan at NAM Ministerial Committee meeting on Palestine in Uganda, says two-state solution is the only path to achieve lasting peace and overall prosperity. In view to strengthen the bonds of friendship and deepening bilateral ties, Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, Harini Amarasurya, arrives in New Delhi to hold talks with Indian leaders. An Indian city of Ahmedabad recommended as the host city for 2030 centenary Commonwealth Games. And on to the details now. Israel's defense minister threatened on Wednesday to resume fighting if Hamas does not honor the terms of the US-backed ceasefire that halted the conflict in Gaza. The statement from Defense Minister Israel Katz's office came after Hamas's armed wing said it had transferred all the bodies it could access and that it would need a special recovery equipment to reach more bodies promised under the ceasefire deal. Well, since Monday, Hamas has handed back 20 surviving hostages to Israel in exchange for nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners freed from Israeli jails. Hamas had already returned the remains of 7 of 28 known deceased hostages. And Israel's National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir has threatened to cut off desperately needed aid supplies to Gaza if Hamas fails to return the remains of soldiers. Israel, meanwhile, transferred another 45 Palestinian bodies that had been in its custody in southern Gaza, bringing the number returning to 90. Under the Trump plan, Israel is to return 15 Palestinian dead for every deceased Israeli hostage. And US President Donald Trump said on Wednesday that the US military will not be needed to disarm Hamas militants. Trump said that the US would support Israel in the efforts and that the US wants Hamas to give up their weapons as part of the Gaza deal reached last week.
We won't need the US military. We won't need it. Well, because we're very much involved in it. If we weren't involved, there wouldn't be peace. If we didn't destroy the nuclear capability of Iran, that deal would have never happened for two reasons. The Arab nations would not have felt bold enough to do it because you have a very powerful, at that time, Iran. It's not powerful anymore between what Israel and us did.
Meanwhile, United Nations Humanitarian Chief Tom Fletcher said on Wednesday that Israel should immediately open crossings into Gaza for humanitarian aid. The crossing remained shut on Wednesday despite reports that it could reopen to aid convoys.
It should happen now. We want it to happen immediately as part of this agreement. As I said, 2-3 days ago, we were getting in at that number. The last couple of days have been lower, and we want to get back to the correct number and deliver at scale.
Well, the US President Donald Trump has confirmed that he authorized the CIA to carry out covert operations in Venezuela. This marks a significant turning point in Washington's pressure campaign against President Nicolas Maduro's regime. Well, Trump said the decision came after intelligence reports claimed Venezuela was releasing prisoners, including those from mental institutions, who later entered the United Nations through what he called an open border. He also blamed the Maduro regime for fueling America's drug crisis, alleging vast shipments of narcotics are flowing in by sea.
I think Venezuela is feeling heat, but I think a lot of other countries are feeling heat too. We're not going to let this country, our country, be ruined because other people want to drop, as you say, their worst. They have given us their worst. They've loaded up our country with prisoners, with mentally ill people that are seriously ill, criminally ill, and we're not going to take it. And so, I mean, it's just one of those things. And I can tell you, we've taken care of the sea. There's nobody, and we're watching. We're watching. And if we see it, we'll save it.
Well, Venezuela has fiercely condemned U.S. President Donald Trump's admission that he authorized CIA covert operations in the country, calling it a grave violation of international law and the UN Charter. Caracas accused Washington of pursuing regime change under the guise of security, with one ultimate goal, it said, to seize control of Venezuela's vast oil wealth.
No al cambio de régimen, que nos recuerda tanto a las fallidas guerras eternas de Afganistán, Irak, Libia, y pare usted de contar. No a los golpes de Estado dados por la CIA, que nos recuerda tanto a los 30.000 desaparecidos por la CIA en los golpes de Estado contra Argentina, al golpe de Estado de Pinochet y los 5.000 jóvenes asesinados y desaparecidos. ¿Hasta cuándo golpes de Estado es la CIA? América Latina no los quiere, no los necesita y los repudia.
Well, in a statement, Venezuelan Foreign Minister Juan Gil said the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela rejects the warmongering and extravagant statements of the President of the United States, in which he publicly admits to having authorized operations to act against the peace and stability of Venezuela. This unprecedented assertion constitutes a grave violation of international law and the Charter of the United Nations, and compels the community of nations to denounce these patently immoderate and inconceivable claims. And U.S. President Donald Trump said on Wednesday that FBI employees and military personnel receive pay despite the federal government shutdown. Now, Trump signed an order on Wednesday directing Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth to ensure active duty U.S. military personnel receive pay on October 15th, despite the federal government shutdown. Trump directed Hegseth to use for the purpose of pay and allowances to accomplish the scheduled disbursement of military pay and allowances for active duty military personnel.
Got a lot of people paid, actually. We got the people that we want paid, okay? And we want the FBI paid, we want the military paid. We got the people that we want paid. And I'll tell you, the Democrats, they don't talk about this. You know, we're getting rid of programs that we didn't like, but that were negotiated in, but we didn't like. We're terminating those programs, and they're going to be terminated on a permanent basis.
And a federal judge in California has ordered U.S. President Donald Trump's administration to halt mass layoffs of federal workers amid the ongoing government shutdown. Now, Judge Susan Elliston granted unions requested to block job cuts at over 30 agencies, calling the administration's politically motivated layoffs unlawful. The decision temporarily shields thousands of employees after Trump extended a federal hiring freeze and vowed to downsize what he labeled Democrat agencies. The White House has already notified over 4,000 workers of termination, with 10,000 more at risk. And now we take you live where External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar is to address the United Nations troop contributing countries
of military leaders
at Ashoka Hall.
Troop contributing countries, the architects, the upholders, and the messengers of peace. You reflect the strength of an institution that has, for nearly 8 decades now, stood out as a beacon of hope in a conflict-ridden world. United Nations peacekeeping. As Foreign Minister of a country that has contributed immensely to this cause, I'm here to share our perspectives, not only on the challenges before us, but also on the principles that must guide us in shaping the future of global peace and security. India approaches peacekeeping from its civilizational ethos. We see the world as one family, a vision enshrined in the timeless phrase of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. This is not just cultural wisdom, but an outlook that anchors our worldview. It is why India has consistently advocated for justice, dignity, opportunity, and prosperity for all societies and peoples. It is also why we place our faith in multilateralism and international partnerships. The global challenges we face, from pandemics to terrorism and economic instability to climate change, these challenges are interconnected and they transcend national borders. Our responses, therefore, must be more cooperation, transcending the competitive aspects of international politics. The natural starting point for such collaboration is the United Nations. I've just come back from New York after attending the 80th UN General Assembly. And let me share with you some key insights from that experience. One, the United Nations today still reflects the realities of 1945, not of 2025. 80 years is a long time by any standards. And during this period, the UN membership has actually quadrupled. Two, institutions that fail to adapt risk irrelevance. Not just irrelevance, but eroding legitimacy and leaving us without recourse in times of uncertainty. Three, for the UN to be effective, it must reform, becoming more inclusive, democratic, participative, and, as I said, representative of today's world. And four, it must amplify the voices of the developing world and reflect the aspirations of the rising global South. The UN's legitimacy, and I would say the UN's credibility, depends on it doing so. Now, there is a strong desire among members of the UN for a reformed United Nations, including expansion of the permanent and non-permanent categories of membership of the Security Council. However, the process of reform itself is being used to derail that agenda. As a result, I'm sorry to say, historical injustices still continue. India affirms its commitment to assume greater responsibilities in a reformed United Nations and in a reformed multilateralism. Now, this brings me to the core of our discussions, UN peacekeeping. Since its inception, it has been a testament to what we can achieve when nations unite for a larger cause. Our peacekeepers have been really a powerful force for good. These brave sons and daughters put their lives on the line to protect civilians, to deliver humanitarian aid, and to support fragile peace processes. They are the real torchbearers of multilateralism. Now let me honor today the more than 4,000 UN and 182 Indian peacekeepers who have made the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty. They stand out as a testament to bravery, and their legacy remains a solemn call to action for all of us. We must ensure that their message lives on. Now, as you would all be aware, peacekeeping was not originally envisaged in the UN Charter. The very concept of peacekeeping has evolved over the years. Currently, it draws its mandate from the decisions of the UN Security Council. Changing geopolitical dynamics, the complexities of world affairs, and the nature of conflicts have all shaped the demands of peacekeeping. We all recognize that peacekeeping has been the flagship endeavor and the most effective instrument of the United Nations. When it comes to peacekeeping operations, allow me to flag 7 concerns for your collective consideration. One, troop contributing countries as well as host states must be consulted while formulating mandates of peacekeeping missions. Two, peacekeeping can only be effective if mandates are commensurate with the resources allocated to the missions. Three, these mandates must always be realistic and always be clear. Four, the primary responsibility for protection of civilians still lies with the host state. Five, technology and peacekeeping go hand in hand and is, in fact, a force multiplier in peacekeeping operations. As a nation that has embraced innovation, let me underline that India stands ready to be a technology demonstrator to enhance the operational capacity of peacekeeping. Six, to address the needs of strategic communication, we must strive to counter mis- and disinformation. The role of ICT is therefore very important. And seven, paramount importance must be given to the safety and security of peacekeepers. We must always ensure that perpetrators of any attack on them must be brought to justice. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the nature of conflict has clearly changed. The clear lines of state-on-state warfare have been blurred. We often face on the ground a complex and ambiguous matrix of non-state actors, of armed groups, and of terrorist organizations. These entities operate outside the norms of international law, employ asymmetric tactics from IEDs to cyber warfare, making our work more dangerous and more unpredictable. The traditional role of a peacekeeper as a buffer between two warring states has also evolved significantly. Today, our peacekeepers must be prepared to protect civilians from harm, respond to humanitarian crises, and yet operate in environments where the enemy wears no uniform and respects no rules. This difficult reality demands a new paradigm for peacekeeping. It requires enhanced training, sophisticated technology, and a re-evaluation of our mandates. We must equip peacekeepers to deal with asymmetric threats, ensure their own safety, and yet deliver on their missions. That means investing in surveillance systems, protective gear, cyber capabilities, and mission preparedness of the highest standard. It is likely that the peacekeeping budget will see headwinds. We will need to see how we can overcome this constraint while adhering to the core principles of maintenance of peace and security. This should also be an opportunity to undertake measures of making UN peacekeeping more financially and administratively rigorous, like winding down obsolete missions that have outlived their purpose. For India, participation in UN peace operations is a profound expression of our responsibility as a member state and of our belief in global commitments. Since inception, we have contributed over 300,000 troops cumulatively, making us the world's largest troop contributing country. Our peacekeepers have served and are serving with distinction and professionalism in some of the world's most challenging theaters. This includes South Sudan, Lebanon, Syria, and the DRC, amongst others. This sustained commitment stems from our conviction that peace anywhere strengthens peace everywhere. We also take great pride that we have walked the talk in our commitment towards women, peace, and security. Our women peacekeepers have demonstrated the unique impact that they have. They build trust in communities and give hope to vulnerable populations, especially women and children. We believe that it is no longer a question of whether women can do peacekeeping. Rather, it is whether peacekeeping can succeed without women. I recall that in February 2025, India hosted the first ever international conference on women peacekeepers from the Global South, bringing together women peacekeepers from 35 nations. More recently, in August this year, India hosted the UN Women Military Officers Course, which saw participation from 15 countries. I'm also glad to note that this August gathering has, over the last 2 days, deliberated on issues closely associated with and important to the maintenance of peace and security. Peacekeeping is and will remain an important instrument of the UN in this pursuit. We need to adapt and we need to change according to the times so as to make peacekeeping more effective and more resilient. This is best reached through consultations and engagement between member states as we discuss the evolving nature of the future of peacekeeping. The Global South has both a particular contribution and a particular relevance insofar as peacekeeping is concerned. Unfortunately, the maximum number of conflict zones are located there. In fact, the requirements of the Global South are themselves distinct, calling for unique, regional, and even local solutions. This is why conferences of this type are valuable in engaging on a single platform in the search for optimal solutions. India has always stood with our brothers and sisters of the Global South and will continue to help with our expertise and long-standing experience across all domains, including in peacekeeping. Let us therefore commit to working together, collectively, constructively, and by consensus, to shaping a renewed vision of peacekeeping, one that honors the sacrifices of the past, that adapts to the challenges of the present, and that commits to the promise of the future. I thank you for your attention.
All right, we were watching live from Manekshaw Center, where External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar addressed United Nations Troop Contributing Countries 2025. He said that India follows the principle of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, seeing world as one family. India has also immensely contributed to the UN peacekeeping missions. Dr. Jaishankar also mentioned about the UN credibility in today's world, where a reformed United Nations was a necessity. Otherwise, it faces the danger of being irrelevant. He said that the UN must become the voice of the developing world. Also, peacekeeping missions need certain reviews from all the members, he said, and paramount importance should be given to the safety of the peacekeepers. He said India has contributed more than 3,000 troops, making us the largest contributors, and he also spoke about the importance of women peacekeepers as well. He said that peacekeeping will remain an effective instrument of United Nations, and we need to commit to work together collectively and by consensus. And moving on, China's new restrictions on rare earth exports has rattled the U.S. again. President Donald Trump now says the U.S. is already in a trade war with China, while the Treasury Secretary has called on the allies to work together and diversify. This is even as China and U.S. prepare for a possible leaders' meeting later this month. U.S. President Donald Trump said on Wednesday that America is already in a trade war with China, justifying the tariffs as a key tool of national security.
Well, you're in one now. Look, we have 100% tariff. If we didn't have tariffs, we would be exposed as being a nothing. We would have no defense. You know, they've used tariffs on us, but we've never had anybody sitting in that chair that felt the need to do it, and they've allowed us to be $37 trillion in debt, et cetera, et cetera. Tariffs are a very important tool for our defense, for our national security. If we don't have tariffs, we're not going to have national security.
US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent slammed Beijing's curbs on rare earth exports, calling it China versus the world, warning that US will neither be commanded nor controlled.
This should be a clear sign to our allies that we must work together, and work together we will. And we are not going to let a group of bureaucrats in Beijing try to manage the global supply chains.
Bessent's comments came as world financial leaders gathered in Washington for the IMF and World Bank meetings. He urged partner countries to de-risk and diversify supply chains away from China. Trump is expected to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping later this month in South Korea during the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit. But the meeting could be in doubt after Beijing's latest move to restrict rare earth exports. Bureau Report, DD India. And Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva said on Wednesday that Brazil and the US will hold negotiation talks on tariffs on Thursday. Lula's remarks at an event in Rio de Janeiro followed a call between him and US President Donald Trump last week, in which Trump designated Secretary of State Marco Rubio to continue tariff negotiations with Brazilian officials. Brazilian Foreign Minister Mauro Vieira and Rubio agreed on a meeting last week. According to a statement from the Lula's office, during last week's call, the Brazilian president asked Trump to remove the additional 40% tariff. And updates now on Russia-Ukraine conflict. Germany had pledged a further military aid worth €2 billion to Ukraine on Wednesday. After a meeting in Brussels with his Ukrainian and British counterparts, Defense Minister Boris Pistorius announced that Germany is preparing a military aid package to Ukraine worth €2 billion. The package will focus on strengthening Ukrainian air defense and will contain missile defense systems, radar technology and ammunition.
Germany is supporting Ukraine with around €9 billion this year, and we will continue our support at this level. From this amount, we are currently preparing a package worth €2 billion. It will contain missile defense systems, state-of-the-art radar technology, and ammunition. We also participate, of course we do, in Pearl, the prioritized Ukraine requirements list, with an investment of $500 million.
Well, furthermore, Germany will provide €400 million for the procurement of long-range drones in Ukraine. Pistorius also announced that Germany would be launching a modernization initiative to increase the combat power and service life of land combat systems. Well, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky discussed the possibility of US supplying natural gas to Ukraine and expressed hope that his upcoming meeting with Donald Trump could help end the conflict.
З прем'єр-міністром Греції, подякував за підтримку і можемо разом зробити деякі суттєві кроки заради нашої стійкості. В тому числі ми говорили про можливості співпраці в енергетиці, і це, зокрема, можливість постачання американського газу. Домовились ми зустрітись з прем'єром, обговорити всі деталі.
Well, on Wednesday, Russia stated that it has the option to import gasoline amid a fuel crisis. Russia's Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak stated that Russia has made fuel imports possible by cutting the 5% import duty to zero. This by enabling companies to bring in gasoline and fuel products under current laws. Some Russian regions, including Crimea, are facing gasoline shortages due to Ukrainian drone strikes on oil refineries. Well, in response, Crimea has imposed fuel rationing, limiting motorists to 30 litres per purchase, and implemented a 30-day fuel price freeze to ease public dissatisfaction. And updates on the French political crisis now. France's Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu will face the confidence vote known as censure votes on Thursday. Legislators in the National Assembly will vote a no-confidence motion filed by oppositions. The hard-left France Unbowed Party and Marine Le Pen of the far-right National Rally and her allies in Parliament. Opposition parties on the far right and far left are demanding parliamentary elections. The two parties do not hold enough seats to topple Lekona's government on their own, but the Prime Minister could be ousted if the Socialists and others on the left join forces with them. The Socialists said they would be prepared to support the new government, but only if it promises to complete suspension of Macron's pension changes. Lekona told the parliament that the suspension would cost $463 million USD in 2026. He said it will benefit 3.5 million French citizens. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Prime Minister Modi to visit Andhra Pradesh today to launch and dedicate multiple development projects in Kurnool. We get you a special report on the World Food Day aimed at ending hunger and ensuring food security for all. And India and Indonesia navies strengthen maritime ties as 5th edition of Samudra Shakti exercise underway in Visakhapatnam.
There's so many invaluable artifacts that the British have taken from our country. They robbed us of our self-respect. They robbed us of our honor. Loot was never innocent. It was painful.
The word loot, that was stolen from India too.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. Lipakshi Quran and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. Israel threatens to resume fighting if Hamas does not respect Gaza truce deal, while Hamas says it has handed over all hostage bodies it can access. Trump authorizes CIA operations in Venezuela, raising pressure on the South American country. Maduro government says it has a violation of international law and the UN Charter. India's Minister of State Kirtivardhan Singh reaffirms country support for Gaza peace plan at NAM Ministerial Committee meeting on Palestine and Uganda, says two-state solution is the only path to achieve lasting peace and overall prosperity. And in view to strengthen the bonds of friendship and deepening bilateral ties, Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, Harini Amarasuriya, arrives in New Delhi to hold talks with Indian leaders. Indian city of Ahmedabad recommended as the host city for 2030 centenary Commonwealth Games. And moving on, India reaffirmed its long-standing commitment to the Palestinian cause in the pursuit of peace in West Asia during the meeting of the NAM Ministerial Committee on Palestine in Kampala. Addressing the meeting, India's Minister of State for External Affairs, Kirtivardhan Singh, said India welcomes the agreement on the first phase of Trump's Gaza peace plan and commends the initiative and efforts of the US and President Trump. Reiterating India's consistent position on the developments since October 7, 2023 and the conflict that followed, Singh stated that India condemned terrorism and have held that the destruction, despair and suffering of civilians must end. Gaza must have access to food, fuel and other necessities without hindrance, and ceasefire must be in place immediately. He called for all parties to uphold their commitments to ensure that peace and calm prevail. Acknowledging the diplomatic role played by regional stakeholders, the Indian minister added that India also expressed its association to the leadership of two NAM members, Egypt and Qatar, which played an instrumental role in realizing the agreement. He underlined that India's position on Palestine has always been rooted in historical support for the Palestinian people's rights. Concluding his address, the minister reiterated India's readiness to contribute constructively to the peace process and its enduring partnership with NAM members. Well, NAM Ministerial Committee on Palestine was established under India's presidency during NAM's summit in New Delhi in 1983. And Sri Lankan Prime Minister Harini Amarasuriya undertaking a 3-day visit to India, her first since assuming the charge of the top office. Sri Lankan Prime Minister will meet Indian political leaders to discuss bilateral issues of mutual interest. The visiting Prime Minister, distinguished alumna of the Hindu College of Delhi University, will also visit her alma mater. In addition, she will participate in a business event to strengthen commercial linkages between the countries. This visit continues the tradition of regular high-level exchanges between India and Sri Lanka, advancing the deep and multifaceted bilateral ties. It will further strengthen the bonds of friendship and reinforced by India's Mahasagar vision and its neighbourhood first policy. And Egypt's Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati arrived in India this morning. During his two-day visit, Badr Abdelati will be meeting Indian political leaders, discussing issues to strengthen bilateral ties. On October 17, the visiting Foreign Minister Abdelati will meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the national capital. And the high-profile visit comes shortly after Union Minister of State for External Affairs Kirtiwardhan Singh met with Abdel Fattah al-Sisi of Egypt during the Gaza Peace Summit in Sharm el-Sheikh earlier this week. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit the South Indian state of Andhra Pradesh on Thursday. During his visit, Prime Minister Modi will lay the foundation stone, inaugurate and dedicate to the nation multiple development projects in Kurnool. These projects span across key sectors including industry, power transmission, roads, railways, defence manufacturing and petroleum and natural gas. These projects will generate major infrastructure and industrial revenues in the state and will enhance the connectivity by better roads and railway network. Energy and defence projects will produce advanced electro-optical system for the Indian Defence Forces, promoting self-reliance and high-skill employment. Well, every year, October 16th is celebrated as the World Food Day, a global call to action to end hunger and ensure food security for all. This year is especially significant as it marks the 80th anniversary of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. The theme this year, Hand in Hand for Better Foods and a Better Future, emphasizes cooperation to transform the world's agri-food systems for the people, the planet and prosperity. India, once a food-deficient nation, today stands tall as a global powerhouse in food production and distribution, ensuring that millions do not go hungry. For more, take a look at this report.
At its headquarters in Rome, the FAO is celebrating 80 years of service with the inauguration of a new food agriculture museum and network. Opening its doors, this World Food Day, the museum is a symbol of innovation and collaboration, showcasing how nations have transformed their food systems to feed a growing world sustainably. India's journey from dependence to self-reliance in food production has been nothing short of transformative. From tackling famine and shortages in the 1960s, the nation today feeds over 81 crore people through a robust network of welfare schemes and digital food distribution systems. The National Food Security Act guarantees subsidized grains to nearly 2/3 of India's population, ensuring that no one goes to bed hungry. Meanwhile, the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana, extended for 5 more years, continues to provide free food grains to the same 81 crore beneficiaries, a vital step in ensuring social equity and stability. To tackle malnutrition, the PM Poshan scheme provides nutritious meals to millions of school children across the country. The Antodaya Anna Yojana focuses on the most vulnerable families, covering nearly 9 crore individuals, including more than 2 crore women. In addition, over 400 lakh metric tons of fortified rice have been distributed, a major stride towards improving micronutrient intake among the poor. Ensuring price stability and affordability, the government's Price Stabilization Fund has helped curb volatility in essential commodities. Affordable products such as Bharat Atta, Bharat Dal and Bharat Rice have been introduced to make nutritious food accessible to every household, reinforcing India's commitment to food for all. The Indian thali itself has gained global recognition. The WWF Living Planet report lauds it for its nutrition balance and sustainability. noting that if the world adopted India's largely plant-based diet, we would need less than 1 Earth's worth of resources to sustain global food production by 2050. As the world comes together to mark the World Food Day 2025, India's achievement stands as an inspiring example of what determination, innovation, and inclusive policy can achieve. By ensuring food security for millions and promoting sustainable food practices, India is not just feeding its people, it is also helping shape a healthier, hungry-free world. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, the 5th edition of the bilateral maritime exercise Samudra Shakti, hosted by the Indian Navy, is underway at Visakhapatnam. The participating units include INS Kavarati under the aegis of Eastern Naval Command and the Indonesian Navy ship KRI John Lai, a corvette with an integral helicopter. Now, the joint drill will culminate on 17th of October. Exercise Samudra Shakti is a key bilateral engagement aimed at enhancing interoperability, strengthening mutual understanding and sharing best practices between the two navies. The exercise highlights a shared commitment of both nations towards maintaining stability and peace in the Indo-Pacific region. Well, tensions along the Pakistan-Afghanistan border have again erupted into deadly clashes, prompting a 48-hour ceasefire agreement between the two sides. The truce comes after days of heavy cross-border fire and airstrikes that left dozens dead. Here's more in the report.
After a deadly clash along the border of Pakistan and Afghanistan on Wednesday, Taliban administration agreed to a temporary 48-hour ceasefire with Pakistan. Pakistan's foreign ministry said both sides would make sincere efforts through dialogue to find a positive solution to the complex yet resolvable issue. The truce followed after more than a dozen civilians were killed in Afghanistan earlier in the day as fresh fighting erupted, shattering a fragile calm that had briefly returned after weekend clashes. Pakistan also carried out an airstrike in Afghanistan's Kandahar province amid the escalating hostilities.
It was around 4 a.m. when the fighting began. Most of the wounded are children and 90% of the casualties are civilians, including women and children. We have, thank God, prepared the ambulances and all the injured, whether women or children, are treated here first and then transferred to Kandahar city.
In retaliation, Taliban forces attacked a Pakistani border post, triggering gunfire and sending plumes of smoke billowing over the frontier town of Chaman. Officials in Pakistan said at least 4 civilians were wounded on their side of the border.
4 of us drivers were waiting for passengers near the customs at Chaman border. One old driver, a Baba, brought us to the hospital.
Violence between the two countries has intensified since twin explosions in Kabul last week and others outside the capital, which the Taliban administration blamed on Islamabad. The bombing sparked a series of deadly border skirmishes in which dozens of soldiers and civilians have been killed on both sides. For now, all eyes are on whether this short-term ceasefire can hold and whether both sides can pull back from the brink of a deeper conflict. Bureau Report, DD India.
And still to come in DD India News Hour. India's GST collection soared to record levels in September after major reforms hailed as a Diwali gift for citizens. DP World India Championships 2025 tees off from October 16 to 19 at Delhi Golf Club. And several teams battle for place in FIFA World Cup 2026. England becomes the first European nation to qualify.
Faster, smarter, better. That's often the promise that comes with modern technology, but all of it comes at a risk.
To deal with this kind of mismatch, we have created a master plan based on population projections up to 2055.
The main reason for looking for dry areas is both
and efficiency reason and an avoidance of corrosion. We decided that this cannot go on forever. Something needs to be done. And we also were very certain that only technology option will be the best option because human intervention has several limitations.
The big advantage is you don't have to go back to the start of the chain like mining iron ore.
Eisenerz des Anfangs.
You can reuse materials that have already been processed.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. And on to some business news now. India's GST collections have hit a record high of 1.89 lakh crore rupees in September 2025, the highest ever. The surge comes after major GST reforms rolled out on September 22nd, bringing relief to the traders, patients, and even home buyers. From healthcare to real estate and everyday essentials, the reforms are being hailed as a real Diwali gift for the people. Here's our report.
There has been a record turnover of goods and services tax in September 2025, with monthly gross collections touching 1.89 lakh crore rupees. Moreover, nation's mood is upbeat after the next-gen GST reforms implemented on 22nd September this year. Be it traders or common man, every segment of society is hailing this move.
The GST revision, we can feel the difference when we do the purchase. There are lots of margin difference in different products which we use in household daily activities. So there is probably like the monthly budget that we are planning in a family basis. There is a much more difference between the usual price and after the GST revision.
Prices of goods have stabilized with the tax system becoming transparent, leading to ease of doing business. The Indian government has also done away with GST rate on life-saving drugs and health insurance. This move is a big relief for patients suffering from serious diseases.
Reduction in the drug GST will reduce ultimately the cost of drugs, which can be utilized by many more cancer patients, and the cure rates and control of cancer rates will increase, and many more patients will be cured and benefit from this step.
People of Hyderabad termed the doing away of GST on insurance a very welcome step.
The new reforms, what it has been taken by our Honorable Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi, we welcome those reforms. In medical insurance and life insurance also, it totally abolishes the GST, which is a very positive and good move on the part of central government.
The GST rate reduction has also given a big boost to the real estate sector.
I don't think that there is any doubt that GST rationalization is a very welcome move for both real estate as well as hospitality sector. It's a very strong signal, not only in terms of viability as well as liquidity availability in the market, but as well as the fact that there's a policy shift.
Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said that farmers are also reaping the benefits of GST reforms.
किसानों के उपयोग वाले वस्तुओं के ऊपर भी टैक्स कम हुआ है। सोलर पावर्ड इक्विपमेंट या आपके ट्रैक्टर, टिलर, एग्रीकल्चरल मशीनरी, पूरे के पूरे जितने भी किसान अन्नदाता उपयोग करते हैं, उन सब में जीएसटी का कम रेट हो गया है 5% या कभी कंप्लीट वेवर भी हुआ है.
The impact of GST reforms can be seen in every sector, from cars and electronics to groceries and fashion industry. It's not just a tax reform, it's a festival of savings, a revival of demand, and as many call it, the real Diwali gift from PM Modi to the people of India. Bureau Report, DD India.
And Tesla has urged Delaware's Supreme Court to reinstate Elon Musk's record $56 billion pay package, the largest in corporate history. Tesla's attorney argued that shareholders lawfully reinstated the record-breaking deal last year, calling it the most informed vote in Delaware history. The appeal follows a lower court's stunning 2024 decision to cancel Musk's pay, citing board bias and lack of transparency. That ruling sparked outrage among corporate leaders, triggering a exit major firms moving their legal homes to Texas and Nevada. Now Delaware's reputation as America's corporate hub hangs in the balance. If Musk loses, Tesla's $25 billion replacement plan still rewards him handsomely. And NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory to cut nearly 550 jobs as part of the restructuring not related to the current U.S. government shutdown, however. Well, JPL is NASA's only federally funded research and development center. If designed, built and operated all 5 of the successful rovers sent so far to the surface of Mars, the layoffs will affect employees across JPL's technical, business and support areas as part of a reorganization that began in July. Director Dave Gallagher says the layoffs are essential to securing JPL's future by creating a leaner infrastructure, focusing on our core technical capabilities and maintaining fiscal discipline. And global markets updates now. Stocks rose across most of Asia on Thursday, with the chip sector buoyant following a strong rally among U.S. peers overnight. A robust start to the earnings season on Wall Street also helped lift the mood. Simmering trade frictions between Beijing and Washington increased the appeal of safe havens like gold, which renewed a record high, and the Japanese yen, while undercutting the dollar. And news just coming in. India reacts to the claims on India cutting Russian energy. In response to the comments on India's energy sourcing, official spokesperson Shri Randhir Jaiswal said, and I quote, "India is a significant importer of oil and gas. It has been our consistent priority to safeguard the interest of the Indian consumer in a volatile energy scenario." Well, our import policies are guided entirely by this objective. Ensuring stable energy prices and secured supplies have been the twin goal of our energy policy. This includes broad basing our energy sourcing and diversifying as appropriate to meet market conditions. Where the U.S. is concerned, we have for many years sought to expand our energy procurement. This has steadily progressed in the last decade. Now, the current administration has shown interest in deepening energy cooperation with India. Discussions are ongoing as of now. And for more on this, we have Jessica Taneja joining us. Well, Jessica, there has been a reaction. Tell us more about this.
Well, India has put its, stand forward in a sense where it talks about the fact that the Russian energy and the imports and India's energy would continue, and the expanding partnership with the United States in that direction would also continue. And certainly there has been a point of contention regarding this, but India is keeping its course and maintaining that it will act according to its own energy needs, and that will be the strategy moving forward.
Right. India's also said that Jessica, India's also mentioned that where U.S. is concerned, we have, of course, for many years sought to expand our energy procurement. All right, we've lost connection with Jessica as of now. We'll try connecting back to her. To tell you again, we just got the breaking news that India reacts to claims on India cutting Russian energy in response to comments on India's energy sourcing. Official spokesperson Shri Randhir Jaiswal said that India is a significant importer of oil and gas. It has been our consistent priority to safeguard the interest of the Indian consumer in a volatile energy scenario. Well, our import policies are also guided entirely by this objective. Ensuring stable energy prices and secured supplies have been the twin goals of our energy policy. This includes broad-basing our energy sourcing and diversifying as appropriate to meet market conditions. Where the US is concerned, we have for many years sought to expand our energy procurement. This has steadily progressed in the last decade. The current administration has shown interest in deepening energy cooperation with India. Discussions right now are ongoing. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app's available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.